I just want to say, can we all get along? Can we get along?
You punk! You faggot! You hoe!
All right, Jay Swift here as always, and we've got the biggest money fight maybe in the history of pay-per-view ever coming up on Saturday, August 26th. Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather. That is, if the great, racial holy war doesn't happen first. And of course, to help us guide us through all this mayhem and misery, the one, the only, Mike Coughlin.
You need to make sure that when you say my name, you add praise be upon him, because I am your prophet in the holy war to come.
Yes, we're all going to seek you out like Mother Abigail in the stand.
Fantastic. I'll take it.
All right. Well, one of the interesting things we talked about when the match was officially made, you said, the only thing that can derail this would be Donald Trump starting a nuclear war with China.
Did I really say that?
Yeah, I think that was the direct quote.
Oh, I'm a genius.
So maybe not a nuclear war with China. I mean, North Korea is still on the button there. But, obviously the big thing happening in the U.S. as of late, Charlottesville, you got the whole racial dynamic going on. You got the alt-right and the alt-left and alt-controlled elite, all these people going at it. And, of course, a lot of people have been saying that the Mayweather-McGregor fight itself has had some very unsavory racial overtones and undertones. So just considering everything that's going on in the world today, do you think that's going to impact maybe the buy rate or just sort of the way people react to this upcoming boxing match?
It will only help if it does anything. I don't think there will be any negative repercussions from this. I can't imagine that people that you would typically think of as race sensitive are going to be, rushing to buy. I was going to say cage fight, but a fight. Whereas anybody who might be a little, and I don't really think these are a lot of people out there. I think it's kind of a media creation. But if there are any people out there who are kind of like, yeah, let's go for the white guy, Conor would definitely be there. So, and Floyd is he's so easy to hate in every way, between beating an ex-wife and girlfriends and the fact that he's 40 years old and the only thing he seems to have accomplished in life is beating people up and running a strip club. So he's an eminently hateable heel if you are a white supremacist. And as someone that, I'm not one, but most of my friends are, I get it. Yeah, it's good for the business.
Yeah, that's a very interesting sort of dynamic we have going on here. I don't think either one of these guys is technically a heel or a face. It's just two guys going in there that are really the ultimate definition of a tweener. I think everybody kind of hates both of them to a certain degree. It's just a matter of which one that you despise more on a given day.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think that's really all that matters. They are polarizing personalities. We think that the world wants to see the white knight versus the black knight, the white hat versus the black hat, good versus evil. What we really want to see, is, especially with any kind of real fighting, is something that's more than just sport. Because we understand sport and we accept sport, but some part of us, I think, likes that the idea that you might punch someone in the head, and it's not for winning a fight, not for getting money, it's not for anything. It's just because you don't like the guy. And we all know someone in our life, we just wish we could just pop them in the side of the head when they're not looking and drop them. And so I think we kind of all live for those rare moments in a fight when a guy gets clipped and you go, oh crap, he's really hurt. Because the other guy swarms on him and he ain't doing it for niceties.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the undergirding hate of this rivalry is palpable. I think maybe it started off as just a money grab, but over the course of the summer, just seeing these guys just lay into each other, these press conferences, has been, to me, worth the price tag of the fight to begin with. This has been some extraordinary shit talking.
Yeah, I actually always assumed, and I mean, again, we haven't seen the fight yet. Maybe it'll turn out different. But my attitude has pretty much been, this thing will be a great spectacle for anybody that lived through the months of July and August of 2017. It's basically been a Conor show. The fight itself will happen. We'll probably get in a few short moments as to what will happen, but it'll go away. But what we will remember is the build, because I don't think the fight itself will produce something that memorable. So we'll all have to look back at that time when Conor grabbed the money and said, "You're really poor," but then we'll go back to life because I actually don't think it's that consequential in the long run. This isn't Ali Frazier or anything like that. It's a big fight, but it'll happen, and we'll all just go about our lives.
There are so many highlights from the summer tour. I mean, you have obviously Conor McGregor saying that why does Floyd Mayweather have a backpack when he can't read? You had Floyd Mayweather basically calling Dana White Conor McGregor's pimp, and he was just a hoe. I mean, it's just been absolutely beautiful stuff all summer long, and seeing it go away is like watching a summer romance fade away.
Yeah, but it's kind of like a high school summer romance where you're sad, you wish it was there forever, but it only works because it shines brightly for a very short period of time.
That's really the best we could hope for in this kind of fight. And as for the fight itself, I mean, we've had some developments lately. Obviously, now we're going to be using 8-ounce gloves as opposed to whatever we were using before. You got the videos coming out saying that maybe Zab Judah knocked out Floyd Mayweather, and then, of course, you got all the stuff with Conor McGregor's camp. So, I mean, is there anything of value from all this stuff happening, or is it just more hype on top of hype?
It is 100% fake. None of it is real. Floyd did not get knocked out by Zab Judah. Conor did not destroy Paulie Malignaggi. This fight is the same as it was the day it was announced. That is one of the greatest fighters of all time, the greatest fighter of a generation, maybe the greatest defensive fighter of the past 50 years, fighting a guy has never, ever boxed before. It doesn't matter what gloves they have, what rules they have, any of this stuff that comes with it. This is a guy who's never boxed, taking on a god at boxing. And it doesn't matter how much Conor looks good doing it in practice or whatever. The real deal is a totally different ball game.
When the fight was announced, obviously, you had people making, predictions. It's going to do 5 million buys. Obviously, the gate's going to be huge. I've heard by some estimates this fight's going to generate $500 million in one night. But also, you've heard stories about ticket sales being a little slow. They're not selling out the best seats. So do you think maybe the hype on this one hasn't really been as overwhelming as perhaps the marketers have tried to make it out to be?
Yes and no. On the one hand, they have made it out to be the biggest fight that could have ever happened. But when you hear something, the biggest, the best ever of all time, usually that is not something that is a squeak by. Like you think of like Titanic or Avatar and their box office records for movies. They're not narrowly the biggest movies ever. There's a significant gulf. I mean, you look in baseball, setting aside the steroid thing, Barry Bonds at 73 home runs is a gigantic gulf between 61 for Maris, 60 for Ruth, and even 70 for Mark McGwire. And so this fight is going to be one of those things where if it does one more buy than Mayweather did with Pacquiao, people will think, oh, well, that's good, but it's not really good. Like anything short of probably 7 or 8 million buys, people will think, well, it was a really big fight. It was important, but it wasn't that much bigger than Pacquiao, so I'm not going to call it the modern-day Thrilla in Manila, so to speak.
And really, how big of a cultural event is this fight? I mean, obviously, us being combat sports guys, we're all about it. It's all over ESPN. But the way it's being built up, I mean, this is being made out to be like a once-in-a-lifetime event. Do you think that just across, middle America, the common man, maybe guys aren't into UFC like we are, that they're feeling the same sort of attraction to this fight? That, like, yeah, this is something special.
I do think there's something to that. I will say, and I've kind of been going over this the past couple of days in my head, I think this fight more than anything has really helped the UFC as far as we have a mixed martial artist and nobody's looking at him as a weirdo. He's being treated as any other high-level athlete. The story is not, there's a boxing versus MMA deal to it, no doubt, but the media has treated Conor as legitimate. And that's something that MMA has always really, really wanted. And frankly, even until Ronda. Like with Ronda, she was kind of a bit of a freak show, and with Conor, it's something different. This is not the pretty girl, the American who does judo or anything. This is just some poor dumb Mick from Ireland, and he's going out there and he's wowing everyone, and he's brought the sport further than anybody has. So it's helped the UFC. I think in Middle America, all those people, I actually do think a lot of those people will buy into this. And I always hate talking like this because it sounds like, that kind of elitist talk, like, oh, those people are different than me and all that. And I'm not really that much different than them. But I think there's a lot of people out there who will look at it and go, you know what, man? Floyd Mayweather just does boxing. Conor McGregor does all of it. And he's awesome at it. He's bigger and stronger and faster and younger. And, the craziest thing of all is anybody else in this fight, I would really laugh it off, and I've laughed this off a lot. But Conor is so different and so unique. We've never seen anything like him in MMA. All combat sports have seen very few people like him. You have your Ali's, maybe your prime Mike Tyson, you go to Joe Louis, some of those guys. Very rarely have you seen someone like Conor where you're just like, this guy said it. I think it might actually happen. And Conor is just that kind of weirdo. And again, you put a gun to my head, he gets blown out of the water. It's not even competitive. But if anybody can change the world, do something crazy, it is that crazy Irishman.
Over the last couple of months, I've run like every possible scenario for how this fight could turn out in my head. And I keep going to like all these fluky MMA style finishes. So we all know boxing, MMA, two totally different worlds. But do you think there might be something from the UFC, from his repertoire, or basically even his training there, that might be carried over into the boxing match as a secret weapon?
I want to praise you. That's a really good question. And I think there is. If there's one area of boxing where Conor might be able to land something and do damage and have an advantage, it would be in the clinch. Because Floyd is used to boxing, and boxing is you box, you throw hands, you clinch. Maybe you threw one or two punches here and there, a little rabbit shit against the head or the kidneys, but then you go on and you restart. Whereas Conor, even if he doesn't want to, in the clinch, he will be so natural. His power in the clinch will translate much more than Floyd's does. Because Conor is trained to be dangerous and damaging in that area, and Floyd hasn't. Floyd's entire life has been, you get in a clinch, you just hold the guy, protect yourself a little bit, get the restart. Conor knows how to fight there, and I can see Conor kind of clinching up, doing a little bit of boxing, pushing off Floyd. Because again, Floyd is a boxer. Boxers don't always push off. A guy like Floyd, who's a defensive boxer, definitely doesn't push off a lot. Conor is somebody who's trained to push off. He's somebody who's been in the, trained to be in a clinch situation in MMA. And as a striker, he wants to create that separation. I could see him clinching up with Floyd in the corner and separating himself and landing a left hook. And if he's going to knock him out or hurt him, that's how it happens.
Obviously you can't go in there and throw a spinning back fist, but what do you think the odds of him trying to get a Superman punch are?
I don't think it actually happens. I can't remember if I've ever seen him throw one. I really wish, as Joe Rogan once said, I think, that he would just go out there and kick him in the head and become a folk hero. That won't happen either because Conor's going to get like $150 million for this fight. So when that kind of money's on the line, you just do whatever the other guy says. And it's, we can all sit there and want more or whatever, but that's $150 million. All of us would do anything for that kind of money.
I think for most people, they kind of have this match on a dichotomy where it's either going to be something like Muhammad Ali versus Chuck Webner, where it just blows everybody's expectation out of the water and surprisingly competitive, or it's going to be Mike Tyson versus Peter McNeely, where it's just a complete debacle and it's over and done with in like 30 seconds. So yeah, you said you're going to put a gun to your head, you're going to say it's going to be a mauling by Mayweather. But I don't know, I just think that considering all the crazy things that have been happening in the universe and all the hype behind this and all the stuff we've seen from training, I think there's can only be one of two possible outcomes for this fight. I think that either Conor McGregor gets a knockout round 3 or 4, or I think Mayweather gets disqualified.
You don't think Mayweather wins by decision or anything?
I just don't. I mean, that's a smart thing to do, but we're not in really smart times anymore.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
true.
think there's just so much wacky stuff going on. I don't know. There's just something when I've been watching the clips of Floyd Mayweather, just the stuff that's been leaking out from training and his interviews. I look in his eyes. Something just seems really, really off. There's something gnawing in the back of his head. I think that is kind of a telltale sign that maybe he's not taking his training as seriously as perhaps Conor McGregor is.
That might be the case. The one thing I will say, and I hate giving this kind of analysis because it's your talking head, first take crap, which isn't real. Because again, the real, true, objective, my head over my heart is Floyd is a god in the ring. Conor's never actually fought in a ring. He may have won. He doesn't fight in the ring. Floyd wins. That said, we are in a really weird time. And it sounds stupid. I hate this whole metaphysical bullshit. But in 2016, the Chicago Cubs won the World Series and Donald Trump became president. Those are both way crazier long shots than Conor landing one punch. So, so many weird things have happened in the past, say 24 months. I feel like the script of reality is being rewritten, and for that reason alone, yeah, maybe Conor does just clip him, and Floyd goes down, and I'll go, holy shit, we live in a world where Conor McGregor knocks out Floyd Mayweather with one punch, and Donald Trump is president. And you know what? Not only is Donald Trump president, he's actually pretty successful at it.
Hey, look at that economy.
Oh, it's more than just the economy. North Korea, he's got more wins than people give him credit for.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting sort of side thing to talk about. I always want to talk about that a little bit later on, to kind of tie into the whole Charlottesville thing.
Yeah, we'll get to it later then.
Yeah, but it's coming up. But yeah, just as far as this fight goes, I was watching all these Conor McGregor fights. There's a dude on YouTube who's been streaming all of Conor McGregor's fights from the beginning of his career, all up until the last fight at UFC 205. And I, kind of keep going back in and looking at those videos, and I'm watching this, watch the Jose Aldo fight. You watch the fight against Eddie Alvarez, and you're like, man, this guy has some force with that left hand. And you're kind of wondering, what if he lands that? I mean, everybody has a striker's chance in, MMA and in boxing. But have we kind of discounted how much power Conor McGregor has? Like maybe that really is an H-bomb that nobody's kind of, talking about?
It's possible, and it's due to the nature of boxing. And Conor's not a total neophyte. When he came into MMA, you could tell immediately he had trained boxing in his life. He started, I think, training in boxing gyms. That said, and I say this as a man who has not been in a jiu-jitsu gym in about 6 months, and who's fat, out of shape, and drinks too much and does too many drugs. In a real fight, right now, I would beat up Floyd Mayweather because he doesn't know how to wrestle. He doesn't know jiu-jitsu. And it's kind of the same deal, only times 100 as far as boxing is concerned. This is Floyd's world. Conor is a brilliant mixed martial artist. That, to me, means more than being a brilliant specialist. That's better than being the best wrestler, the best jiu-jitsu guy, and the best boxer. Conor McGregor, on average, beats all of those guys at any time. But unfortunately, he's in a situation where there's restricted rules, and so Conor loses. It's just a function of the rules. If there's a super fight, we all love jiu-jitsu, and Conor was going to take on the greatest wrestler / grappler in the world, we wouldn't be sitting there going, well, maybe as a crazy chance at an armbar. We'd be like, no, he's going to get mauled and lose because we know combat sports. And unfortunately, boxing has been somewhat separated from the rest of combat sports because it's been the successful part and it's kept itself alienated. But push comes to shove, you step in the arena of a guy who's great at something, the odds are so against you that you're going to beat the guy who is the best at what he does.
So what are your plans for next Saturday?
You know, it's funny enough you mentioned that. I was talking to my younger brother, Brian, who just got married, the poor fool. I was going to come up to his place. We were looking at some of the movie theaters are doing this for like $40 a ticket. And then we realized, wait, if the two of us are going to go, we should just buy the pay-per-view. And then we could sit at home and not have to deal with the public. So we're probably just going to, I'm just going to go to his place and probably watch it there and annoy his new wife.
Well, you know, that's what brothers are for.
Well, that's what I tell him, at least.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, for me, the final question about, you know, the Floyd Mayweather Conor McGregor fight, we've had all the hype. We're going to finally settle things for good. Hopefully, maybe there might be a part two. Who knows? But what do you think is going to be the long-lasting cultural legacy of this fight in the U.S. sports panoply?
I want to give actually a lot of credit to my normal co-host at thehalfguarded.com, Matt Grady, for this. I think that the long legacy will actually be Conor McGregor loses, but he fights Paulie Malignaggi in the UFC in an MMA fight and gets revenge and honor restored for MMA against the top level boxer. And I think that's where they go next. Conor's got his hundreds of millions. Everybody says, hey, good for him. He went in there in a sport he doesn't do, and he gave it his best, and he came out a little short, so be it. But when the boxing guy stepped in the octagon, Conor showed, hey, I'm the real deal. And I think actually in 5 years, I can't really say that's what people will remember, because I don't think people will remember anything beyond, oh yeah, those two guys fought. But I think that even when Conor loses, and he will lose, I think that enough people will go, man, it took a lot of balls going there against the greatest of all time in your first fight.
And we can only hope that whatever happens next is at least as good as the Randy Couture James Toney fight.
I hope it's better than that shit, but yeah.
Oh, and speaking of shit, great segue. Obviously, you know, we do a lot of MMA stuff, but we also do a lot of cultural analysis. And of course, the big thing going on in the world right now, the whole Charlottesville alt-right debacle. There's a lot of angles to go with this, but just your general overview, you know, what do you think happened, and what are your thoughts on some of the post reactions we're seeing to this?
Boy, you got like 3 hours here. I actually believe this is one of those stories. It's much like an onion, where you kind of reveal in one layer after another has a new truth to it. I think that the president fucked up the way that he did his speech, only because it wasn't politically savvy. That said, I have been wrong about the president's political instincts time and time again, so I don't totally know. As far as what actually happened, I think it is a case of a stop clock being right twice a day. And that's what you had here as far as the Antifa left-wing nut jobs. These are the people that try to shut down. I don't care about Milo. I actually think Milo's opinions are mainstream, but he's, very gregarious, over the top. He likes his stuff, fine. They try to shut him down. Ann Coulter, they shut her down. That was bullshit, because she's been a mainstream person for decades. And they shut down Ben Shapiro, who is, I think, just one of the most brilliant minds out there. So these Antifa people, they're fucking fascists. They're awful people, and they should not be praised. It just happens that this past Saturday, the people on the other side were actual Nazis. And I've seen a lot of these videos, and it wasn't kind of like your general thing where the media is like, oh, these right-wing Nazi types, Milo types. No, this isn't them. These are actual fucking Nazis. And so they were, again, broke a clock, right place, right time. And as someone on the right, I can't really criticize them, because, again, anytime you are against the Nazi, you're in the right. It's just a rule in this world. I just don't like the fact that this will probably help to legitimize any of their opposition movements, which is bullshit, because they just kind of got lucky that the one time they really said, oh, they're all right-wing racists, it actually was some crazy fucking racist.
Now, are they really Nazis until they invade Poland?
Well, I don't think these individuals are that sophisticated. I also actually really think they're a danger. I say that knowing that somebody was killed, and that sucks. Like, I hate saying that sucks. That's kind of minimizes it, but it's like 300, 400 people in Virginia on a Friday night. Like, if you're out there marching, and it doesn't matter really what side you are, if you're protesting a political thing on a Friday night and you're under the age of 30, you're a loser. You should be out there at a club, getting laid, having fun, doing something. If you got that much kind of energy and you're over the age of 30, and I say this as someone over the age of 30, just come on, man. Just get something else to do with your life.
Yeah, I try to keep my views from being too nihilistic and cynical, but that's just my nature. I don't really see the problem. If you've got the alt-right and the alt-left at each other's throats, I mean, I think this is Darwinism in action, getting rid of both sides of the spectrum. But one of the things, and you kind of touched upon, I think this is really, really fascinating. If you take a look at the alt-right, the alt-left, the wannabe Nazis, the wannabe communists, whatever, the commonality I see is that they're all childless, they're all unmarried, and they all have absolutely nothing going on in their lives.
That's for sure. There is an issue, and I say this to someone that's 34, divorced, and probably won't have children, but I'm wrong, and I'm not the way it should be. There is a lot of value in having children, and I think that stabilizes people. It gives them a new perspective. It allows them. I think it awakens something in the head where you go, "Oh, there's more than just me." When you have a kid, you realize, "Oh crap, I can't be just self-centered." And you're a little calmer. You're a little more deliberate in your actions. And yeah, it tends to be the young that start shit. It's always been that way. 60s, 70s, the 80s with the punks or whatever. It's always young people because anybody that's got a job doesn't have the time. And most people work 9 to 5, and when they're on the train at 5 p.m., they're going, "Oh, I just want to go home." And somebody goes, "Isn't it really bad what they're doing to gay people?" And they go, "Yeah, that really sucks, but I just want to eat a chicken breast and watch Wheel of Fortune and go to sleep because that's just life." Maybe that's not fair. Maybe it's not right. Maybe we should change it, but that's what it is. And I really think that these are two groups of people that they're LARPers or live action role players. They like this. They want it. They see that the other person got a permit and they go, "I can't wait to show up." And that thing is equal on both sides. They like fighting. It's just kind of their weekend hobby because we live in a very decadent society where we can just basically have riots for fun.
Yeah, it's troubling to think about where this could be headed because we've had startlingly few fatalities from these sort of skirmishes. But, how long until this gets elevated? I mean, what's going to be the long-term sort of consequences of this kind of thing? Are we going to be seeing, full-out gangs of New York-style brawls in the street with the diametric political ideologies?
Oh, in the long run, the nation moves towards a more statist society. I think that's just the natural order of things. I don't like it. I don't think it's good. It just seems to be how the world moves. And I think that's one of those things that if you look at what happened in Charlottesville, it's really basically just collectivist versus collectivist. On the right side are white collectivists. There are people that look at the world and say, well, all the people in this group are different. But that's not the way the world works. Collectivism is the enemy of everything. But what really matters in life is individualism, liberty. Liberty embraces the individual. And so anytime you have collectivist action, that is an anathema. That is exactly against liberty and individualism. And so really, when you see Antifa versus the neo-Nazi white whatever, that's just one group of people that identify with the collective versus another group that identifies with the collective. And I think the real people in the middle, I suspect it's people like you and I who are like, I don't actually care if you're gay or black or white or Jewish or whatever. I just kind of like people. And unfortunately, these groups like to categorize everyone, and it's all collectivism, it's all statism, it's all this group of people will run things based on some abstract historical idea of you're in the group. And that's been the biggest problem to progress in the human history.
I think it's social entropy in action. Everybody says progress is great, but you got to remember the universe is dying. All the stars are turning to dust. Everything that we've created one day will be ash heaps on the monuments of immortal time. And I think this is just a symptom of that. I think there's a lot of people out there who clearly aren't really satisfied with life in general. They're kids that are in college, they're underemployed or unemployed, they're still living with their parents. And there's no great national movement. You don't have a real war to fight. You don't have a depression to overcome. You don't really have anything to surmount. You just have people just stagnating. And of course, when you have people stagnating, especially when they're really young, of course they're going to turn to these crazy ideologies and become really vocal and adamant about it. And so far, I think the miracle to me is not the fact that, we're having stuff like this in Charlottesville, is the fact that we've had so few, considering just how many disaffected people out there who are just looking for any reason to turn their self-hatred towards other people and, cloak it with some sort of identity politics, rationale. I think it's a terrifying thing to think, but we're not done with it. This is going to get worse before it gets better. And I think the end outcome, gangs in New York, because you had that big skirmish at the end. What happened? The army came in, and I think that's kind of going to be the big end point to all of this. If the citizenry can't keep their stuff together, you can't be civil. Well, that just gives the states yet another reason to expand its reach just a little bit further. And I think we're already seeing that. We're seeing that with the internet, because in the wake of Charlottesville, we saw Google and GoDaddy and even ICANN basically rip web pages off the internet. Totally got rid of them. And I think it's only a matter of time before the government starts doing the same thing. So for me, I think what we're seeing is just people, just being uncivil, not really knowing what to do with their lives, trying to find anything that has meaning, trying to just go out there and be tribalistic and violent and get their jollies. And I think at the end of the day, we're all going to be paying for it, because this is how real government-sanctioned fascism begins.
Yeah, I think you pretty much just nailed it there. I think that the wise man hears something brilliant and just shuts his mouth.
Well, I don't know if it's that good, but I'll try. All right, well, we got Mayweather McGregor coming up August 26th. I'll find a way to watch it somehow. Is it really $40 to go see it at the theater?
$40 at the theater, $100 in your home.
Oh goodness. Well, if only there was some magical device that
I know.
could
I
use.
feel like if you just Google Mayweather versus McGregor free live stream, maybe you'll find something. It's just a hint, just a guess, a gut feeling. I don't recommend that. I think that would be illegal. But let's face it, if you're listening to this shit on YouTube or wherever, you probably are internet savvy enough to already know how this works.
Well, and I mean, you do have the undercard live on Fox, so if you want to watch people no one has ever heard of, you got that.
Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of boxing matches that no one will ever remember, and that's indicative of boxing in a nutshell, because when you watch any gigantic, big UFC show, UFC 100, you're like, oh, there's like 3, 4, 5 big fights. Like UFC 100 had John Jones on the prelims. Meanwhile, the biggest fight in boxing in history will have, I don't know, dudes no one will ever care about. That's just the nature of boxing, and that's why it's dead.
You know what my favorite thing about UFC 100 is, in hindsight?
John Fitch was the main event?
Yes! Yes! You are the man. Wow. Everybody forgets that. I have to remind them, and it just freaks them out.
Yeah, you got to get pretty early to stump me, I guess. Sure, whatever. Let's go with it.
All right, well, it's a pleasure speaking with you as always, Mr. Coughlin. Of course, you got halfguarded.com. Anything else on the social media webs you want to throw out there for us?
Nope. To be honest, everybody, if you're listening to this, go to halfguarded.com because James kind of has basically the best stuff we publish. I don't know when this goes up, but by the time it does go up, he'll have a great article on the 10 dumbest, worst, most useless sports franchises of all time. And to be again, I've been going through the site a lot lately. Look at the archives, and time again, I see a James Swift article, and I go, "Shit, that's really, really good." I really hope that people who listen to this appreciate the fact that it's not just I'm hyping up James here, and that's fine. I get him on the show, but we actually have a lot of really good shit. It's not just a typical dumbass thing. I think that when history looks at it, they'll look back and go, "Wow, there's a lot of really talented, smart people all in one area." And I think that they'll say James Swift led the revolution.
And the thing about Half Guarded is sort of like this interview. I mean, superficially, yeah, it's about combat sports, but really what we're really sort of getting at to, the meat of the matter, is the greatest combat sport of all, life.
I'm not going to say anything more. That's perfect.
Well, you know what to do. Halfguarded.com, halfguarded.com, halfguarded.com. Thanks again, Mr. Coughlin, and we'll be seeing you after the race war is finished.